Hey everyone, welcome back to Woman in Progress. I'm so excited for this episode because I have an amazing woman here with me. Her name is Rachel Graham. She is a life and business coach, a human design guide, and the co founder of the Baltimore Women's Circle. She's passionate about teaching people how to embody their human design in life and business. And she really focuses on bridging the gap between human design, manifestation, somatic healing, inner child work, marketing, and business. So, a lot of you guys are going to get a lot of value from this episode because we're going to be talking about inner child work and our past selves and the higher self. And I'm just excited to dive so deep into these topics because I know that every single woman listening to this will get so much value. Welcome in, Rachel. Do you want to say what's up?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation because when we had a human design reading together, you you were one of those people where the conversation just flowed. It was so much fun exploring your chart. So I'm excited about this conversation and to also get to know your audience more.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I did hire Rachel for like a human design chart reading. And for those who don't know what human design is, I am probably going to butcher it. So I can have Rachel go in and kind of explain. But I mean, do you want to kind of just briefly kind of explain what human design is? 'Cause I know some people are like, what is that?
Totally. Yeah. Especially because human design really connects with inner child healing, which is what we're going to dive into today. But human design is a tool for self discovery, it's a system. And it's made up of four other ancient systems, including Western astrology, the Hindu chakra system, the Kabbalah, and I Ching. And it's really all about learning about your unique energy, how you are designed to not only live, but make decisions, how you're designed to manifest. I mean, you can also explore how you're designed to take care of yourself, to exercise, to communicate with others, to, if you're in business, how you're designed to build your business and market yourself. So it's really a map into yourself, and it's nothing that you don't already know about yourself, but, growing up, we pick up this conditioning, we learn how we're supposed to be, and we start to forget our true nature, our true soul's essence. And so human design isn't going to tell you anything you don't already know about yourself deep down. It's actually just going to help you develop awareness around who you truly are so that you can remember. It's really a tool for remembering.
I love that so much. And it's so true because on the human design like call together, I was just like, yes, like that confirms exactly what I was feeling. Like all of the things similar like with astrology, like if you really dive deep past the sun sign, right? But I'm excited to dive deep, especially with inner child and past self and tying all of these together. When I learned about my human design, it really just helped me understand how, like you said, all of the things that you said, because we all work so differently, right? And so, you know, let's kind of dive into today's topic, which I'm really excited about because for those who are curious, I mean, if you're listening to this, obviously you're curious, right? But, inner child work is so important in understanding the role of our inner child when it comes to decision making and developing and growing and also like the higher self. And don't worry if you're kind of like, well, I don't really know. We're going to dive into all of that. But this is going to be helpful for all of you guys to understand when our inner child is the one running the show and how to make decisions from a place of your higher self or the version of yourself that you desire to be. So that way you can understand how to cater to when that past version of yourself is coming up through triggers or discomfort or pressure because you're ready to grow, right? And now you kind of just need the sense of safety. And so we'll kind of go into like how to cater to that inner child, that younger or past version of ourselves so we can move forward and continue to take aligned action toward who we really desire to become and manifest. So For Rachel, just to start off, what is the inner, can you explain like what is the inner child or the past self and what is the higher self?
Sure, yeah. So, your inner child, if you'd like to, you can start by simply visualizing 5-year-old little version of you. And you can see that little version of you in your mind's eye. And I want you to imagine that that little version of you is now being expressed through all of your felt experiences. So, your emotions, the sensations in your body, that's really your inner child speaking to you. And if you think about it, every time we try to stuff down an emotion or we tell ourselves, how do I just get rid of this anxiety? How do I handle it? Imagine that that's what you're saying to your inner child. Every time you try to stuff down a sensation that's uncomfortable, it's almost as if you were putting a child in a closet and saying, okay, I can't deal with you right now. You need to go. And of course, like, we could never imagine doing that, right, to an actual child, especially if you're a parent or maybe you have nieces or nephews or you just work with children. But that's really what's happening with your inner child. So your inner child is your felt experiences, and your inner child is this part of us that is always young and innocent and seeking guidance, security, stability. And when we're growing up, we sometimes, we have gaps in our development. It's natural, it's normal, because what our inner child needs, what we need, is acceptance and love and support and stability. But again, we're all very different. So how we need those things might not be how our parents or our caregivers gave them to us. However our experience was with our parents or caregivers, when we're doing inner child healing, it's not to bash our parents or to blame them. It's a practice of taking responsibility and saying, okay, my parents or my caregivers, they did the best they could with whatever they had, whether that was great or whether it was shitty. And now it's my responsibility, because it's now time for me to lead my inner child, to fill in the gaps, to give myself whatever it is that maybe I didn't get growing up. And so the more you support your inner child with affirmation and with guidance and with so many other choices, the easier it is for you to integrate and listen to your inner child.
I love that. Yes. So I was literally picturing like little Lexi, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, she was just so playful and adventurous and like always making like YouTube like series and like storyteller. And I can definitely see how sometimes, even when you said even just like pushing down emotions, but pushing down desires, right? And like when we have like these desires that aren't so like income generating like right away, or like businessy, or whatever it might be, like maybe you want to be a content creator, or really, for me it's like my YouTube, like really like getting into my YouTube and activating that creativity. It's almost like not right now, or it's not perfect enough, or whatever. And so you kind of just put those desires down, and it's almost like you're kind of taking like what's the word, like the paintbrush and the toy away from like your inner child and being like, here, like do some math. I don't know, but something that stood out to me is like basically the inner child represents our emotions, right? And like our subconscious in a way. Like I know that our bodies also are subconscious, but like there's so many things that go into it, right? So with that being said, how does that, how can we tell when our inner child is running the show, like in everyday life, in development, when we're growing? What does it feel like when our inner child is asking for attention or is running the show.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, what you mean by running the show is like instead of you leading and you stepping into being your highest self, your inner child is leading, which is going to lead to some problems because just imagine as if, a child was in charge of a household. It might be really fun at first, it might be good in small bite-sized pieces, but it's not good overall. So, you know, when we're say being creative, I think it's great to let your inner child kind of run the show a little bit, to lead, because our inner child is so creative and so connected to life and ideas. But where it starts to get a bit problematic is when you start noticing like your inner child pitching a fit. Like, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to. And it's not that we have to discipline our inner child and say, no, we're going to do this. It's actually more a process of inquiry where you ask yourself, okay, what is my inner child here to tell me? What message do I have? Because we're always here to work with our inner child. We're not here to discipline them or, stuff them away. And so a lot of times the message is, you've been working a lot and there's been no room for play. And so that part of you, that little version of you is just craving play, or that little part of you is craving attention or validation or encouragement. And sometimes we have to stop what we're doing and give that to ourselves. Other times, our inner child, if they're running the show and they're kind of pitching a fit and we're not doing what we say we're going to do, we're not being in integrity with ourselves, it's because our inner child is scared. I don't think I'm going to be good enough. I don't think I'm going to do it's not perfect. It's not ready. And this is where we really get to take leadership and we get to lead our inner child forward instead of vice versa, so that we can teach our inner child, okay, we can take steps forward even when it's not perfect. Like, you can do this. And this is where we start to get into this reprogramming. Because the reason why we feel this today is because at some point growing up, that's how we felt. And that became our lived experience. Maybe we tried something for the first time and somebody maybe you created a drawing and a peer or a teacher or a parent said, ooh, what is this? And then ever since that moment, you're like, I can't show my work unless it's perfect. So it's this process of healing from moments in our life growing up that were challenging, and also it's this process of learning how to lead ourselves and really noticing like when is our inner child kind of pitching a fit or resisting, and really, really learning how to embrace our inner child, support them, and lead them forward.
I love that so much. I feel like it creates just a whole new conversation around discipline and getting yourself to like take action. And I'm a coach as well for like fitness and health, and so that's a conversation all the time. It's like motivation versus discipline, and like you're not always going to feel motivated, and you're not always going to feel like doing the things that are, like you said, in integrity with what you say you want. But it's about taking that aligned action. But this puts a whole new twist on it, and we're really big on like giving ourselves grace and slowing down, because it can be so easy, especially in this industry, to go 0 to 100 and try to do all the things, especially if you have like goals beyond just health, if you want to also build muscle and all of that. And so this puts like a whole new twist, or it just opens a whole new avenue of understanding like when we want to throw a temper tantrum, right? And we're kind of just like, even for me within business, I'm like, there's some days where I'm just like, I just don't want to, like, I just don't feel like it, right? And so it's really embracing that inner child and being like, okay, like, what do we need? Is it that we're feeling scared, right? Is it that we feel like I'm not good enough, I can't do this because it's like this new venture? Is it that we need more play? Is it that we need more rest? Like I will put on a movie that I loved when I was younger and just like let myself kind of like literally I will feel that inner child within me feeling soothed, right? And so that's just a beautiful way to kind of look at it. And really allowing that, like you said, embracing of that past version or inner child versus just stuffing it down and being like, well, I don't want to feel this and I don't have time to feel this and, whatever is coming up for you. And it's actually interesting as well because as you're talking about like things from our past and stuff, I think it's really important to also note that like it doesn't, yes, a lot of these things can be very traumatic, but also it doesn't, like, there are things that are like, there's like capital T traumas and then like lowercase t traumas, like micro traumas that we might not identify, especially if you had parents that would always kind of like brush things off or be like my dad, he's like an immigrant from DR. Like I pretty much grew up very suburban, like two-parent households, like compassionate, understanding mom, like very like, you know, healthy masculine dad, like kind of just like that great dynamic, but still there was like this projection of like, you don't have to cry about that. Like I grew up with this and like, like kind of just like your feelings aren't valid because you have a good life. And we gave you a good life. And as a child, it's like, okay, well, when these things come up in my adult life, it's like you brush off these feelings and emotions because they don't feel valid, right? Like they don't feel big enough. These micro traumas aren't as bad as someone else's, so I just should just suck it up and like just keep moving, right? And micro traumas, like even like I just remember when I was writing, I used to love writing when I was little. I just like, when you get to the end of the page and you move to the next page, I just wrote it out. And I remember my teacher literally being like, are you stupid? Like literally, like I was like a child, and she was like looking at the paper and being like, what is that? Like acting like I'm a whole ass college student supposed to know this. And so it's those little moments where we internalize, oh, like I'm stupid or I'm not good enough or whatever, in those moments where you're literally a child, that can come up in business or when you're trying to learn about your macros or you're trying to make investment in yourself. And that's just so powerful. So you mentioned like, we want to embrace and ask, ourselves, what am I needing in that moment, right? In those moments, how come, and I'm sure you can relate, right? So I would just love to hear what works for you and what you kind of tell your audience is in those moments when it feels so hard to get yourselves out of those stressful emotions. And maybe it's not even about getting ourselves out of those stressful emotions, but like you said, working with them. What would be some of the ways that someone can actually, in the moment when their ego is very kind of hard and you're kind of in fight or flight, how can you work through that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I really appreciate everything that you shared in terms of like just bringing awareness to trauma, micro trauma, and even if you don't want to use that terminology, just gaps in development. I'm glad you brought that up because we all have it. We all do, and we all have opportunities for healing our inner child. And maybe it's not healing, maybe it's just simply the process of reparenting yourself. And it can be uncomfortable, but it's such a beautiful opportunity because this is how we grow and evolve. Like this is how our souls grow and evolve, and this is also how we master challenges. Like I know I've had difficult health challenges, from cystic acne to gaining weight and feeling uncomfortable in my body and rediscovering my strength. And it never came from just pure work and discipline. It was also always a combination of those things and this inner healing. And And with your question that you just asked, like when you're feeling stressed or you're feeling overwhelmed, the best thing to do is to regulate your nervous system. So we have, two settings. We have our sympathetic nervous system, the fight, flight, or freeze. And then we have parasympathetic nervous system, right? Where we're rest, digest, we're down-regulated, we're calm, we're grounded. And it's always about regulating our nervous system with being in the body, like physical touch. You can literally just touch yourself. You can give yourself a hug. I really am a fan of giving yourself a hug and imagining that you are hugging your 5-year-old inner child. Sound to stimulate your vagus nerve. And breath, like those are some of the most simple ways to regulate your body when you feel stressed. When you can tell your inner child is like, what are we doing? I feel scared. I feel unstable. What's going on? And it's always the body. It always comes back to the body because again, your inner child is felt experiences in the body.
I love that. I love that. And it's so funny because I always like intuitively did that. Like would hug myself and like it's just crazy how a lot of the stuff if you are, working on strengthening your intuition and connecting more deeper into your body, a lot of the stuff you'll do naturally without having that knowledge of even, I just got into like nervous system expansion work and like somatic healing and a lot of the stuff I'm like, wow, like I was doing this stuff intuitively, just like tapping into like, okay, my body. And like, I didn't know why I was doing it. I just knew that it helped me feel good and feel better. And so that's super, super cool. So when in those moments we feel stressful and our sympathetic nervous system's being activated, you're going into fight, flight, or freeze mode. It's about getting out of your head and into your body through breathing through it, hand on chest, right? Physical touch with yourself, and just slowing down your mind or body, or even if it's the opposite, right? If you're not like in fight, flight, or freeze, but you're kind of like on the opposite end, getting your body moving or like kind of activating that energy can be helpful as well. So this is so empowering, because I don't think a lot of people really know this stuff, like about inner child work and really meshing that, I'm a firm believer as well within the health, fitness, wellness industry. It can't just always be buckling down and like go and like discipline and like moving through it. That's how you burn yourself out, right? And I feel like that's why a lot of times people struggle to stick to their health and fitness or whatever that may look like to them, right? Because there's kind of like this absence of that feminine energy and that slow down and that inner connection with yourself and understanding, oh, my inner child is coming to the show. She needs a little bit of, or he, right, needs a little bit of love and, attention and just reassurance that everything's going to be okay. And being aware of that is like the first step. So I kind of just want to tap in a little bit on, our higher self and the connection between the inner child, our highest self, and the roles that these both play when it comes to decision making and like developing, right? Because I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so your higher self, I know you asked that in the beginning and I just focused on the inner child, so this is perfect timing. Your higher self is essentially like, the very best version of you. It's always the version of you who, your soul came here to be. The strongest, clearest version of yourself. And it's something we're constantly evolving into and stepping into, and we can always access it from within us, just like we can tune into our inner child. And I think our higher self is going to reparent our inner child and be a part of that like healing process. And I like what you just said about like feminine and masculine. It's like such a balance. Because if we're always in our masculine, we're going to get burnt out. But if we're always in our feminine, we're going to get sluggish and we're going to lose momentum and we're going to get stuck. And it's such a beautiful balance between masculine and feminine. And it's never a balance that we hit and then we're always there. It's constantly this kind of beautiful like tug and like pull and tug and this balance, this going back and forth between the two. And if we were to just let our inner child run the show, you know, that's typically where we probably get into imbalance. So we need our higher self in order to maintain balance. So there's not too much masculine, not too much feminine, and we have a clear direction of like where are we going? How are we growing? Because if we ask ourselves, if you ask yourself, how would my higher self show up today? How would they show up this week? How would they show up in my workouts, in my cooking, in my self-care? There's so much we can gather from that. And sometimes our higher self is gonna, you know, go to the gym even though I don't want to. And sometimes it's, oh, actually my higher self in this moment would be kind to myself and would recognize that I've been going every day. I've been pushing myself, and maybe my higher self would say, you know, if you rest today, it doesn't mean you're going to lose all your momentum. It's actually going to support your momentum. So, you know, we can learn so much from just tuning into these different parts of ourselves.
That is so amazing. And I know that these girlies are going to be like, oh my God, because we talk about this, but I think really diving deep into the topic is going to help it make connections, because we can say higher self, and we can have an idea of what that means, but really actually pulling that in the moments, right, where you don't feel like doing things, or you really need to identify, is it rest that I really need? Is it I need a mental break? Or because that's a question that I have a lot from clients and women in my audience is like, okay, well, how do I know I need like rest and recharge? And how do I know when I'm just being lazy or just don't feel like doing it? And you can tap into that higher version of yourself and trust yourself, because if you actually, you know the answer, like nobody, like I can give you the answer, I can help you walk through it, like as your coach, but ultimately, you know, the second that you ask that question, it's just a matter of diving deep into your intuition and connecting to that higher version of yourself. And it's like, no, like I am feeling pretty burnt out. I think the best thing for me to do, I have been hitting all of my workouts. I have been getting it in. I've been doing the things. I think today I'm just going to like go on a walk, be in nature, you know, focus on, you know, prepping my food for the next 4 days and like call it a day. Beautiful. We build that momentum again tomorrow. And then there's just like, you know, I've had a long day from work, you know, I didn't go yesterday, I said I was going to go today, and like, I'll just go tomorrow. Like, there's a big difference, right? And
Huge.
girl, you know.
I
So,
love that you're bringing that up. Yeah, because you really do know, and your mind can tell you, oh, I don't know. But if you connect to your body, you know. Like, you're not going to feel like working out if you haven't moved your body in a week because you've slowed down, or because your mind is tired. That's been a big one for me. I
wow.
had to distinguish the difference between being mentally tired and physically tired a few years ago. And I kept telling myself, oh, I need to rest, because I thought I needed it. But what I really needed was movement. My mind was tired and I needed that like reinvigoration of moving my body, getting out of my mind, connecting to my body. But it was so easy for me to kind of just tell myself like, oh, you're tired, you need to rest. But you always know whether it's like you need to be kind and gentle with yourself, or when you need that masculine energy and you need to just, you know, you gotta do it. But it's like, do you do it from that like discipline where you're not really listening to your inner child, or do you do it and you say to yourself, come on, I've got this. Let's make this fun. Like, how can I bring my inner child into this? Because so often we treat working out like work. I mean, it's called a workout. We treat it like work, and work is typically not viewed as fun. But what if movement, what if your healthy wellness lifestyle was something that felt creative and supportive for your inner child? Like, this is why I rock climb, I do yoga, I walk. I only pretty much do things that feel
You
fun.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Like a lot of the like I always say like the gym is not like the sole form of fitness. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times women want to get fit and healthy and move their body and they think about the gym. And it's like the gym is like great, but especially if you're just starting out, guys, and like you can see so much progress and feel so much better by literally just going outside and just going on a walk every day. If you have a dog, get a dog. Like that'll make it so much easier, you
Call
know?
it a hot girl walk.
Right. Like I have a cat, so, sorry, but you just getting out there, right? And making it something you enjoy. And if you are someone who you want to strength train and you want to, get stronger and like build muscle and like all of the things, how can we make the gym something that is enjoyable, right? How can we create rituals that get your inner child like excited, right? Like for me it's like blasting house music or reggaeton like right before I'm going to the gym and just like having fun and dancing. Maybe it's like your outfit or you take a class or you go with a friend or whatever it is, but how can we make it fun? And also understanding that it's not always gonna feel super fun sometimes, and in those moments that's when we really just have to tap into that higher version of ourselves and know that sometimes action is what breeds motivation and not the other way around. And I love what you mentioned about like masculine and feminine and how, I think a lot of us are very, very, what's the word? We're very familiar with like burnout and like the masculine, like go, go, go. And I think a lot of us can be even addicted to that. Whether you're a coach listening to this podcast or just somebody who wants to, you know, build a healthy, fit lifestyle and, whatever, right? It's that action taking, that getting out there, making it happen, movement forward type energy. But then when we start to introduce the feminine, when we start to introduce giving yourself grace, knowing when to recharge, it's almost like we can fall to the other side of the spectrum where you mentioned like just being sluggish and losing momentum altogether. And I definitely observe that now that you mentioned that for myself, where I'll work all day from a passionate place. I'm loving it, but I just really don't give myself much breaks. And so then I need the next like 3 days. I don't even want to open my laptop. It's very difficult for me to like open messages and like respond because I'm like on the edge of burnout. Then I'm sluggish and I lose momentum. And then it's like, now I got to get myself back into the momentum. And so it's like, instead of going from one spectrum to the other, like you mentioned, finding this harmonious pull and tug and like just kind of tapping into that every moment of every day, right? And like tapping into these different versions of ourselves, like, okay, inner child, I can feel her coming up or them coming up. What do we need? We need this. Or I'm feeling a little sluggish and unmotivated and I need some sunshine. I need some movement. I need to invigorate myself mentally, right? I've been going really hard. Let me rest and really creating this invisible string that ties it all together. And that is just so cool. And I'm really happy we're having this conversation. So, um, yeah, I feel like that is pretty much the, I guess, consensus of everything that I kind of wanted to ask and kind of talk through. Would you say that there's anything else that is coming to you maybe intuitively that you feel like might be beneficial for anybody else to hear? Um, if not, then we can go ahead and wrap it up. But yeah, I would just love to hear from you if there's anything else.
Yeah, I think we covered some of the most important pieces. But what I would add is that it's a journey and it takes time, and like healing your inner child and really learning to connect with your inner child and work with your inner child and your higher self. It's such a practice, and it requires repetition, because when we are filling in those gaps, those points in our development that maybe we didn't get what we needed, or we need to teach ourselves skills around maybe confidence, discipline, integrity, anything. When we're teaching ourselves, reparenting ourselves in those in those ways, like it requires subconscious reprogramming, which could be a totally other conversation. And what I'll leave it with is it takes repetition. But if you just begin to notice your emotions and you start to ask yourself, okay, what message is my inner child giving me right now? You can start to really tune into, okay, I'm going to take care of my needs, and I'm going to see how my higher self can lead me into the rest of my day, through my goals, through my wellness activities, whatever it may be. And if you want to peel back the layers even more, this is where human design really comes into play, because human design really is also a tool for deconditioning, and our energy all works differently. So Lexi, I mean, you were just talking about like one day you go all into it and then you're a little bit tired. Well, you're a manifesting generator. Sometimes we have days where we just work, and then we might not have energy available the next day. And so there's this process of perhaps deconditioning or letting go of the need to show up the same way every day. But that's your next step. Once you start to get familiar with your inner child, maybe you start to explore your human design, and you can start to really heal your inner child, or decondition, release whatever's not serving you by using human design as a map. So,
Oh God.
yeah.
I love all of that. Yeah, my sacral was responding. If you know, you know. But no, I actually do need to book a second one, because I feel like it's so complex and in depth that, I want to continue, because like you said, it's deconditioning. And even for those listening, like, what? This is like what Rachel's talking about, of like, we're not going to show up the same. We might not show up the same every single day, right? And even just like hormonally as women, you know what I mean? Like when I look at like my male counterparts who are like very successful, they live the same life every single day. Not to say that they don't need rest, but when I look at my partner, he never loses steam. Like that testosterone is just on, you know what I mean? And just
They wake up the same way every day, and I'm like, what?
every day, like he goes to bed like late, wakes up at 6:30, works out, goes to work. He works all day, comes home, continues working, loves it, never loses that steam. Girl, I will be distraught if I were to work that way every single day. And it's deconditioning, feeling like you need to show up the same every day, or looking on social media and seeing someone's get ready with me morning routine and thinking that that's how it is every day. I promise you it's not, especially someone who is still trying to implement rituals and routines. Like it's not going to look the same every day. Sometimes you wake up a little late, you make a quick little breakfast and coffee, and you get right into it, right? Some days you have that time and you really need to dedicate that time, but then also understanding everybody's different, right? And like you said, like I'm a manifesting generator, and like that is going to be completely different than someone else who might be a projector or reflector, or how that looks like. So if you guys are curious on really understanding your processes more, how you work, I highly recommend hitting up Rachel. We're going to drop her Instagram and how you can reach her in the description, and I'll have her kind of say that as well. But like we mentioned earlier, she is an expert in somatic healing, inner child work, and really just coaching you guys through understanding your human design and how that ties into business, into your life. And even if you don't have your own business, following it and just understanding your human design is still going to help you, and you never know what doors that could open. So Rachel, do you kind of just want to say how people can reach you?
Yeah, totally. You covered it. Instagram is the best place to reach me, and my handle is rachelgraham.co. Feel free to send me a message if anything landed with you. And I just want to thank you, Lexi, for having me on. I just absolutely love the work you're doing, how you're empowering your community, and it's just so needed. And for those of you listening, I just have to say, like, you are already a step ahead, because when you're taking care of yourself and you're moving your body, it's so much easier to do the inner work because you already have this like physical connection with yourself. So I'm just so appreciative of the work that you're doing and how you're empowering people, and it's so important, it's so needed right now, so thank you.
It is. Of course, Rachel, and I'm appreciative of your work as well. And obviously, we met for a reason, and I'm grateful for that. And, me getting into my fitness journey and all of that was the door to my spiritual awakening and like really redefining what that looks like for me. And that could be a conversation for a whole nother day. But I am excited to share this conversation for those listening. Thanks for being here with us. We'd love to share the word, spread the word, leave a review, screenshot, share it on your story so we can bring the conversation to more people. And thanks for listening. Bye. Okay, stopping the recording.